Alex, I was cleaning out the back of the shop yesterday, and I found the original sketches for my first ever outbuilding. It was supposed to be a serene garden retreat.
Oh boy, is that the one that currently looks like a leaning tower of cedar and regret at your old place?
It's a bold architectural statement, thank you. But yes, it's a disaster. I built it before I understood that physics and gravity don't take holidays just because you're using really nice wood. Ask me how I know that a roof without a proper pitch becomes a swimming pool by November.
Well, hopefully today we can keep our listeners from building backyard swimming pools. Today we're doing a deep dive into shed and outbuilding construction. Because, let's be honest, every maker reaches a point where the garage is full, the basement is a hazard, and you just need more space to disappear into.
Exactly. Whether it's a 12 by 20 studio or a simple 8 by 8 tool shed, building a structure from scratch is the ultimate maker rite of passage. But here's the thing, nobody tells you. The actual building part is only about half the job.
Wait, hold on. Before we get to the fun stuff, the power tools and the framing, we have to talk about the B word, bureaucracy.
It's the least sexy part of the craft, but it's the most important. You can build the most beautiful timber frame masterpiece in the world, and if the city inspector doesn't like where it sits, they'll make you tear it down. Ask me how I know about setback requirements.
Let me guess. You were 18 inches over the line.
Try 3 feet. It was a very expensive weekend of moving a building on greased PVC pipes.
Pro tip, check your local regulations first. Most places, like what we see from the folks over at Instructables, allow for an accessory structure up to 120 square feet, usually an 8 by 10 or 10 by 12, without a massive permit process. But height matters too. If you go over 8 feet, you might be entering permit land.
And call the utility companies. It's a free service. They'll come out and mark your lines. Because nothing ruins a Saturday morning quite like hitting a main power line with a post-hole digger. It's a very illuminating experience.
Okay, let's say the legalities are sorted. We have a patch of dirt. What's the biggest mistake you see people make right at the start?
The foundation. People want to just throw some bricks on the grass and start framing. Here's the thing, your shed is only as good as the ground it's sitting on. If your base isn't level and stable, your doors will never close properly, and your roof will eventually pull apart.
I've seen some people use those deck blocks, and others dig 4-foot deep concrete piers. What's the middle ground for a DIYer who doesn't want to hire a cement truck?
It depends on your soil, but for a standard 8 by 8 or 10 by 12, a floating foundation of solid concrete blocks on a bed of compacted gravel is usually the way to go. If you've got a slope, like Seamster over on Instructables had, you'll need to use pressure-treated 4 by 6 posts to level it out.
But those posts eventually rot, right?
Not if you do it right. Use ground contact rated lumber. There's a difference between above ground and ground contact. Ask me how I know. I once replaced a whole floor frame because I bought the cheap stuff.
Okay, foundation is down. We're level. Everything is square. Now we get to the framing. This is where people start getting intimidated. It's basically building a house, just smaller, right?
Pretty much. But the secret to a successful solo build is the 8-foot rule.
Sounds like a social distancing guideline.
No, it's about efficiency. Standard lumber comes in 8-foot lengths. Sheathing, your OSB or plywood, comes in 4 by 8 sheets. If you design your shed to be an 8-foot cube, you barely have to cut anything. You minimize waste and maximize your budget. You saw this in the Rag and Bone Brown build. He kept it simple, and the speed of the build doubled because he wasn't overcomplicating the geometry.
Wait, what about the floor? I saw a guy on YouTube building a floor out of decking boards. Is that okay?
It's okay for a woodshed where you want airflow. But for a shop or a studio? No, RE, you want 23-32 inches tongue and groove OSB. It's solid, it doesn't squeak, and it provides a rigid diaphragm for the whole building. If you use cheap, thin plywood for the floor, you'll feel like you're walking on a trampoline every time you move your table saw.
Speaking of moving saws, let's talk about the studio versus shed debate. DIY Pete does these incredible shed-to-studio conversions. That's a whole different beast than just a place to put the lawnmower.
That's where things get emotional. A shed is a box. A studio is a sanctuary. If you're going that route, you're looking at moisture barriers, insulation, and electrical.
Okay, but for a first-timer, that's where the budget triples. You mentioned your first shed cost a fortune.
It did, because I didn't think about the gap.
The gap?
The air gap. If you insulate a shed without a vapor barrier or proper venting, you're essentially building a giant petri dish for mold. You have to let the building breathe. Here's the thing nobody tells you. Building a tight building is actually harder than building a loose one.
So, for someone listening who just wants a shop, maybe a place for a lathe and a workbench, is it better to build it overbuilt or just enough?
Always overbuild the floor and the roof. Everything else can be standard. I like 16-inch on-center studs. Some people do 24-inch to save money, but 16-inch makes it so much easier to hang heavy tool racks later.
What about the roof? That seems to be where a lot of DIYers go into a cold sweat. Rafters, bird's mouth cuts, pitches. It's a lot of math.
It's just triangles, Alex, but I get it. If you're terrified of rafters, build a lean-to style shed. It's a single slope roof, one high wall, one low wall, straight boards across. It's modern looking, lets rain run off one side, and you don't need a degree in trigonometry to figure it out.
Okay, so we've got walls, a floor, a lean-to roof. Now for the part everyone forgets until the very end, the door. Why are shed doors always the worst part of every DIY project?
Because wood moves. You build a beautiful, tight-fitting door in July, and by January, the humidity has swollen it so much, you need a sledgehammer to get inside.
Is that why your garden shed currently has a tarp instead of a door?
That is a temporary, breathable portal. But seriously, if you're building your own doors, build them as a Z-frame and give yourself a 1/4 inch gap all the way around. It feels wrong when you're making it. You want it flush, but believe me, that gap is your best friend when the seasons change.
What about the one-year update? We saw a video mentioned in the research about problems with my handmade shed. What usually fails after the first year?
Usually it's the paint or the foundation settling. If you don't paint the bottom edges of your T111 siding, it'll wick it up water like a giant straw. In 2 years, the bottom of your shed will look like soggy cardboard. You know, we talk a lot about pro tips and common mistakes, but there's a feeling you get when you stand inside a structure you built with your own hands.
The "I hope this doesn't fall on me" feeling.
Maybe for the first 10 minutes, but after that, it's the realization that you've created a footprint on the earth. There's a specific smell to a newly built shed, fresh pine, sawdust, and the lack of a mortgage.
It's the ultimate maker project because it's not just an object. It's a place where other objects get born.
Exactly. My biggest piece of advice, don't wait until you're a master to build one. Build it now. Build it a little bit wrong. Use the 8-foot rule to save your wallet. Make sure it's level so your marbles don't roll to one corner,
And check the property lines.
especially the property lines.
If you're looking for the specific plans we talked about, from the 8x8 cube to the modern lean-to, check our show notes. We've linked to Rag & Bone Brown's speed build and the Instructables guide that walks you through every single nail.
And remember, if you finish your shed and the door sticks or the roof has a tiny drip, welcome to the club. That's just the building's way of telling you it has character.
Or that you should have listened to Tiger's Ask Me How I Know stories.
Hey, I've got enough character for this entire neighborhood.
This has been the Tiger Den podcast. Go build something big this weekend.
Just make sure it's level. Seriously, get a good level.